Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Tastemakers podcast. Of course, this is the podcast where we talk about everything going on in the world of TV and film. What's new, what's not new, I guess. No, mostly what's new. Sometimes what's not new if we watch something old. I watched something a little bit old today, as in earlier this year, or not today, but I watched it for today. Because we taste things and we let you know what's good and what's bad. With me today is my co-host Grace Leeder. How you doing, Grace?
I'm doing well. I'm not new. I'm old. Not really. I'm not that old, but yeah. Sometimes we watch old things. I did the same thing. I binge watched a show that came out earlier this past weekend. So
Well, there you go. I watched. I'll spoil it. I watched Companion.
oh, fun. That was my
Yes.
favorite segment of Terrence finally watched the movie. That's actually what the segment should be called. Taryn finally watched the movie.
Yeah.
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 That's not even a bad thing. I think you watch movies how normal people watch movies. I watch movies like a psychopath.
There are a bunch of finales. The Last of Us, the Rehearsal,
the studio. Yeah.
I have watched 2 of those finales at least. We also had a few new shows air this week, Sirens being one of them. Some big news items as well to talk about. That we're gonna talk about the Wheel of Time being canceled over at Amazon. I also want to talk about Alex Garland directing a live-action Elden Ring movie, which is very exciting for me.
That is exciting. I didn't even know that was happening.
Oh, that's my headline of the day, Grace.
Okay. All
right. And then, of course, we'll talk about some of the upcoming things like Karate Kid movie is coming out this week, and a couple of shows as well, like Department Q. Okay, so we'll also catch up on plenty of things. But Grace, should we get into Alex Garland?
Yeah, I feel like I'm such an Alex Garland defender. I know many people who are gigantic movie buffs and are like, I hate Alex Garland. I do not like any of his movies. I think they're trash. And it's the most I've ever felt like I am like, kind of, this is gonna sound weird, but like nerdy bro cinephile being like, no, actually you don't understand. You don't understand what Alex Garland is trying to do. Like, I genuinely feel like that, but these are people who I trust their movie opinions who are like, don't like it. Don't like his movies.
What's weird about that to me is that Alex Garland has made a lot of different kinds of movies.
I think it's
it feels hard to be
okay.
like, I just don't like Alex Garland's movies.
Okay, I think that it starts with the movie Men. I think
that makes sense.
I feel like that is the first like Ex Machina is really good. I think most people are like, yeah, that's a good movie.
That's where I feel like most people like Ex Machina. You can't say that Alex Garland sucks if you like Ex Machina, because that's like so Alex Garland.
Yeah, and then Annihilation, I think people like either like it or don't like.
Whatever. I get it, but it's a great movie.
And then the movie Men, I feel like people really don't like it.
I very much get that.
That's a movie that I was like, oh, I love Jesse Buckley, and actually I also like is it Greg Kinnear who plays every version of Man in that movie. I believe that's right. I actually like it. I think it's obviously real weird, and I don't know that the ending works, and I don't need anybody to be like, oh, I actually like. I'm not even telling anybody who doesn't like the movie Men that they're wrong. That being said, I do think Civil War, like, it frustrates me greatly, the conversation about what Civil War is trying to say or what it's not trying to say. And then I feel like Warfare, I really enjoyed as well, and kind of feel like there's this thing I think that happens with those two movies specifically that I feel like is a microcosm of what I feel like is frustrating right now, which is a lack of nuance, where it's like, we have to say that this movie is perpetuating war and actually it's not good, or like this movie didn't actually make a political statement, even though I very much think it did make a political statement. And so it frustrates me, but I'm very excited to hear that he's doing an Elden Ring movie.
Yeah. So this news came a couple of days ago that Alex Garland has been confirmed to be attached to a live action Elden Ring movie, and Grace, from A24.
Oh, surprise! So, surprise! That is cool.
It's cool. It's I think going to be A24's. I think this is either speculated or reported. Basically, like their biggest swing ever, like their biggest budget, movie they've ever made. If you don't know, Elden Ring is an extremely popular video game that came out a couple years ago now, from FromSoft, who made their name, at least in the mainstream, through their Dark Souls series. Elden Ring was basically a Dark Souls like game, but with an open world that had a lot of lore that was actually written by George R.R. Martin. Elden Ring has been an extremely popular game, I think, with creatives in particular. Brandon Sanderson, another massively successful fantasy author, loved the game and was like, "Hey guys, the next time you need any lore written, like, I'm available." Alex Garland himself has been on record saying that he's beaten the game, I think, like 15 times. So there's a lot there. Now, what's interesting about the game is that the lore is wild. I think I saw somebody make a meme or something where it was like humans are weird, and it was like, here's the a video, a YouTube video on the entire history of like human history, and it was like 3 hours long, and then it was like, here is a video about the one part of the Elden Ring lore, and it was 15 hours long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of wild stuff in Elden Ring, and the idea of there being a movie is very strange. If you do know Alex Garland, I think for sure the best comparison that we will be able to draw from the movies he's made so far would be Annihilation. I think that Annihilation is going to come closest to the vibe that we will get from Elden Ring.
I think people are like they're having one moment of like, wait, George R. R. Martin wrote something in 2022. It's like, yes, he wrote the lore for this video game. And then the other one is like, oh, it's like, Elden Ring is a world that's like very impossible. Like it's extremely complex and hard to understand. You're like, oh, and Alex Garland he wrote, okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. I get it. I'm very excited for both of these things. Actually, that wasn't even my real joke. The joke was that Elden Ring is hard to play. It's a very hard game to play. It's very difficult. It is notoriously a game where like you die a lot, and that's the joke. They're like, oh, a movie that's hard to watch made by Alex Garland. That's what some people might say. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Not me. I like Alex Garland.
Known for its visuals as well,
Yeah,
Elden Ring.
it looks very cool. It's extremely hard, like because it's open world. Like you need to be at certain like levels to go, but the game is not indicative of being like you should like make sure you are powered up to go over here. You just go there and you die by a monster, and you keep doing it until you realize like I can't beat this part of the game the game yet, and you have to actively choose to leave. But it's got some really cool, like a very complicated world building because it's like an epic sci-fi, not sci-fi, like fantasy world that I'm very interested in Alex Garland adapting this. And think it does make sense for A24 to take a big, feels like the type of intellectual property that makes sense. It's a very popular game. I think Game of the Year. Did it win Game of the Year in 2022?
Oh
I think
yeah, it
that's
won
true.
all the awards. It's I played the hell out of it. I loved
Yeah,
it.
same.
It was a bit of a cultural shift in gaming, I would say. And so very interested to see what would happen here. In terms of other movies, I saw some people talk about the movie Green Knight.
Oh, I love Green
As
Knight. I was thinking about watching that last night, Taran. I was like, I should just watch
wow.
Green Knight again. I love Green Knight. Green Knight is my jam. Green Knight. The thing about Green Knight is that the way I would describe it being different is like, yeah, Green Knight is like Green Knight isn't an Arthurian tale that's sort of like reimagined and redone. Um, the thing about Green Knight is that like it's sort of mysterious in the way of like there's a talking tree and a talking fox and like big like there's like these like giants that walk across the field at one point as he's like walking. It's very like ethereal, whereas I feel like Elden Ring is more like in your face. It's like I'm trying imagine Game of Thrones, but like more Star Wars. And I don't even know if that's accurate, but like you're in the world and there's real monsters and things, as opposed to Green Knight is more. I mean, it's a King Arthur tale, basically.
Mhm.
But yeah, see that yeah. Oh, we'll make it
Very
copyrighted.
ethereal, very yeah, like mythological.
Yeah.
I would imagine that something with Elden Ring would feel like the Green Knight.
Yeah.
So that's maybe another comparable. But either way, very exciting. I think if you're a fan of either Alex Garland or Elden Ring, or certainly if you're a fan of both, I think it's interesting from A24 to take a big swing like this. And so yeah, I'm super interested and excited to see what comes of Elden Ring. Okay, bad
Wheel of
news.
Time. Wah,
The Wheel of
wah.
Time has officially been canceled at Amazon. And this was not a huge surprise. They've been in negotiations. We had heard some rumors that that they were in negotiations with, I believe, Sony about trying to, essentially get this made. However, it just wasn't doing well enough, I think, for the cost. Something that we talked about before is that they are 3 seasons in to what is potentially an 8-season plan, and even then things would be very condensed and shortened. And so for a show that is only dropping in viewership over time, despite having better, like, more acclaim over time, the viewership is not popping off and very likely never will at this point. So the idea of committing to potentially 5 more seasons, why give it 1 or 2 more seasons when you kind of know what's going to happen? It's not going to pop off, and it's still not going to be finished. You might as well axe it now, was the thing that I was fearing, and seemingly has now happened, which is tough. Tough for people who liked the show and wanted to see it continue.
Yeah, I have seen a little bit of people being like, "All right, fine, I'll start reading the books," which is like, I guess, because the story is complete,
Those
finished
people
by.
are going to be confused.
Yeah.
I'll
Robert
just pick
Jordan
up on
Robinson.
book 4.
No, I think people know
No,
that they're
yeah, I
gonna
know.
start from the beginning, but, yeah, which to me, I kinda have the same thing. It's like, I am disappointed that I won't get to see the show play out, but I do know that I can go to the books and the books are finished, so that
Mhm.
there is at least that. But yeah, it is a bummer. Sad, you're an RJP. We're fans of Survivor. Too bad for Rafe that it got canceled. I believe the other show he was working on, he's also, was it
He
the
was supposed to work
Warhammer?
on God of War, but I think he
God of War.
was pulled off of it.
Yeah, that's a bummer. I hope he finds something because I really do think that, like, I interviewed him, and when I watched a lot of his interviews in preparation for my interview with him, and I do really feel like, I think he gets a lot of, I think, like, the creators of Wheel of Time get a lot of flack for some of the changes that they made. I know he, like, personally, uh, you know, I, doing a show on Amazon Prime where you only get 8 episodes and you have to try to do this, like, massive world building, with the constraints you have, like, you have to make changes that, not everyone say had to make the changes that they did, but you do have to make some. And I feel like he talked about, like, he really felt like it was like, giving up on some of his children, the ways that he was like, I can't get this into the show that I wanted. So yeah, too bad. And Rosamund Pike as well.
Mhm.
Executive producing on the show, and now not in.
I
I
wonder if
am
she's gonna
bummed.
finish the audiobooks. Like,
Yeah, I was thinking that too. I don't know. They probably signed her up to
I hope so,
an
because
agreement.
this is blasphemy, but I was never in love with Michael Cramy and Kate Redding. As they're lovely people, but their narration
I
doesn't quite work for me.
I kind of feel the
Um,
same, and I was doing a thing where I was kind of like both listening and reading at the same. Where I'm like, like, if I'm going for a walk, I would put on the audiobook, but I was finding myself much more be like, "Nah, I'll just read it. I'll just read."
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I've just been lucky, but this feels like the first time in a while that a show has been canceled, and I feel like it's just like a fully unfinished show. Like, this
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of the days of, like, Carnival, and like those shows that just, like, fully are they, in the article that announced this, they were like, well, they tried to make it a little bit of closure at the end of the season just in case. No, they didn't. There was no closure whatsoever. This is a fully unfinished show. Um, And I can't remember a lot of I can't think of a lot of other shows recently that have felt unfinished in that way.
Yeah, I do feel like in like the 2000s and then the 2010s, I feel like we had a lot of like trying to get franchise IP off the ground and it not working. And I feel like more so from movies than television, it does feel like for the most part that once you tried the television show, like I would agree with you that it doesn't feel like this happens a lot. And I feel like the extra thing probably that I'm just missing is like someone will like probably in the YouTube comments be like, "What about this thing?" And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I just don't like in my like I don't think that thing was as good as this show was. Like, I think this show was pretty good. Like literally episode 3 of this last season is like one of the best episodes of TV probably I've seen, you know. Rich said best fantasy episode ever, you know? So it definitely had its highs. I think that's what's disappointing is that it was pretty good. And so it's a bummer for it not to continue. As opposed to like, I'm sure someone will be like, "Oh, this show got canceled after," and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, but that show wasn't good," you know? So
Well, the other interesting thing is that Rings of Power seemingly is not canceled,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And these were the two kind of big ticket fantasy shows that Amazon started at around the same time. And I would say, generally, especially with its third season, The Wheel of Time actually had better reception overall than Rings of Power did, although I do believe lower viewership overall as well. But from my perspective, at least, I do feel less inclined to sort of like continue with Rings of Power, be any more invested in Rings of Power, given that like it does feel a little less likely that we get a conclusion to that. And I haven't felt, I remember feeling that way back in the day because all these shows were getting canceled. I'd be like, I'm not going to watch a show until I
It's
know
the
it
net
finishes.
the Netflix
Um,
problem of being like you watch 2 seasons of a show and then it's gone. The only thing about Rings of Power is I do feel like
but they
that
spent so much just to buy the rights.
I mean, that's true, but also I feel like the other thing too is like there's not that story in terms of what it's going to be is so much more nebulous than the Wheel of Time that they could
Yeah.
probably do another season of the show and then it's an ending and you're like, "Oh, that's the ending," you know, as opposed
Yeah.
to the Wheel of Time like was never going to be finished until it was finished. So I do feel a little they're different things, I think. But
Mhm. I think
yeah,
that's very fair. All right. Should we talk a little bit about the Last of Us finale?
let's do it. Yeah. Um
Um, the big news that I saw that I looked into because we were just recording about the finale, and this news dropped during the recording that finale viewership was down 55% from season one for the season one finale, which I believe was the highest rated episode or highest viewed episode of that season. Which is interesting to me because I believe that it's strange to me because HBO released these numbers, I think, themselves, and I don't think they've been releasing numbers consistently throughout the season. And in their release, HBO said, "Well, these are our numbers, but they're low because it's a holiday weekend, because it's Memorial Day weekend." Which leads me to question, why did they release these numbers today?
yeah, it's a good point. I don't
I'm probably missing something about the logistics of how this works, but it
um
was curious to me because all it did was give the headline of viewership down 55%,
yes,
which is not really true for the season as a whole.
yeah, it's actually probably that somebody else might have released these numbers anyway, and so they were getting ahead of the headline, basically trying to anyway. I think that's like my best guess with not really, having any evidence to prove that to be true. Like if they really, but somebody could have, if somebody like was going to release the numbers, I don't know. I don't know. That maybe that doesn't make sense because HBO would have had to release them, but they chose to release them. Um, I mean, yeah, I don't know why they released them today. If they're, because the idea is that people who were traveling or out on Sunday night wouldn't have watched it. They'll instead watch it today or tonight as we're recording on Monday, and then the numbers will get closer. They likely will not get to the 8.2 number that season one finale had, but you think that they could get the gap there. But yeah, we were kind of talking about this on the pretty late in the podcast, so if people didn't check it out. But the idea that it's not as easy to say, oh, viewership downs and that's the worst the worst thing over the season as a whole, because typically season ones you start lower and you build your audience, whereas in subsequent seasons you tend to start with a high audience for your premiere, and slowly people dip off as they like don't continue with it, or for whatever reason. You might have some like, a big episode might spike a number, but typically you're just trying to like not lose as many viewers over the course of the season. And season 2 seemed to like mostly be able to do that. So I don't know. I get, maybe if you're HBO, you just think like, yeah, they can spin it how they want, but this isn't really that bad, But definitely a
Well,
starker reaction between season 1 and season 2, I think.
right. I think no matter how you interpret it, I would say season 2 is not performing the way that you would hope after season 1, which I don't think is a surprise. This is what we talked about a little bit. It shouldn't be a surprise given the direction of season 2, which is not to spoil anything, but they basically, they have some big swings there. But I do still see in this article, like season 2 is tallying nearly 37 million global viewers per episode, which is still
Right.
pretty phenomenal.
And that's
And
more than season 1 was doing at the time. So
right.
yeah, at the time, at season 2 by the finale was doing more viewers per episode than season was doing. But again, that's because people weren't necessarily like, if you didn't start watching until you heard it was good, and then, et cetera, et cetera.
I think the biggest takeaway is that the season 2 likely did not grow the audience, and in fact, it may have atrophied slightly. That season 1 built the audience, and season 2 has just mostly retained it, but might have dropped a bit, which is probably more interesting to you if you've seen the season, and you might speculate as to why that might be the case. But either way, it remains one of HBO's most successful shows. And in addition to these numbers, it's been announced that there will now be 2 more seasons, season 3 and season 4 for The Last of Us. At least that is the plan right now. And that is also some pretty big news if you know the story. And I think has been met with some skepticism from myself included as to how that will fit in terms of how you fit the story into 2 more seasons. And there's all kinds of speculation as to what they could do with it. But interesting stuff surrounding The Last of Us, I would say. And I think another big part of this is that they have not even started writing season 3. So it will be a while before we get it. And that is another very frustrating part of the situation.
Yeah. I have another small piece of news. I think it's just notable. The Cannes Film Festival happened, and a movie that won the Palme d'Or, which is like sort of the big prize of that festival, is a movie called "It Was Just an Accident," which is an Iranian thriller. Maybe I think Iranian and France co-production. Only interesting to note that this is, I believe, the 6th year in a row where Neon, I believe, is the company that has, I think that's right, Neon, which is the same company that had. Let me just fact check myself here. Anora won last year, and Anora went on to win Best Picture. The last time this happened was Parasite, but yeah, it does seem like there's one. Keep an eye out for It Was Just an Accident. This probably won't come out for a fair bit, because now they'll look to like release it at some point that gives them the best Oscar chance for next year. But this is the movie that won the Palme d'Or. So, very big movie buff. I find it interesting, but yeah.
It is interesting.
Yeah, distributed by Neon. So I believe this is like the 6th Neon win in a row, I believe, is the story that came out of Cannes, which is just interesting that they keep like picking these movies that to produce or distribute, that are sort of have these like indie, cinephile movie buff notion to them.
Yeah.
So yeah.
All right. Any other news?
I don't think so.
Let's talk about some of the finales. Because I want to talk about The Rehearsal. I watched The Rehearsal finale. I will say I had not watched episode 5 last week, I believe. So I watched both episode 5 and 6 in the time between the last recording and this one. I actually thought episode 5 was the weakest of the season, which isn't saying that much because the season has been incredibly strong. But the finale I thought was incredible. And so ridiculous, which you've come to expect from The Rehearsal, but I did not expect where it went. I think that this show is so unexpectedly artistic in a lot of ways. It is something. So if you watch Nathan For You, you know the big stunts, you know the ridiculousness, you know that he's good at comedy. When I watched The Curse, I was like, I get what he's going for, but narratively, this is a little rough, right?
I disagree, but that's okay. I love The Curse. I think The Curse is one of the best shows, but it's okay.
I think The Curse is good. It was just not easy to watch.
Oh,
Is what
I
I
would
would.
completely agree with that. Yeah.
That's sort of what I mean, where it's like it's in many ways similar to The Last of Us 2.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
I get what they're going for, but it is not an easy pill to swallow. The Rehearsal is also difficult to watch at times because of the cringe factor.
Yeah.
But in terms of how it's narratively structured and layered and sort of just put together, it's so good. It's so cleverly constructed. And I'm not going to say much more because I don't want to spoil anything, but like uh there are twists and turns to what feels like a very straightforward and comedic sort of approach to a thing. And it would not surprise me if this started to really gain a lot of traction, like awards wise, if people start to think of The Rehearsal as like a really top tier show, because I actually think it is. I think that this is in contention for, you know, one of the best shows of the year in a very, very stacked field.
I agree. It's like we've been talking about this is like a golden age of television right now, and I totally agree. This might be the best show that's on television right now. It is this thing where Nathan Fielder had. So I saw a video of him. He was doing press for The Curse, and
Mm.
he was making fun of the fact that people come and tell him that his show is cringe all the time. And he goes, "Well, how do you live your life? Don't you go about the world and have cringe conversations? And you're like, aren't you just like, I'm just reflecting what society is like." And I feel like that was so prescient to me because what I feel like Nathan does is he I think both seasons, and I think he figured out a thing that worked from season 1, which is he took a really big idea. Season 1, it's about parenthood. Season 2, it's about flying planes, so making sure it's about airline safety, basically. And what he does is he takes this big thing and then he like projects onto other people why the thing isn't working, but then ultimately he figures out this way where you start to be like, oh, this is so deeply personal to Nathan Field. It's a reason why like he's obviously interested in that thing, because you're realizing why it's so deeply personal for him to
Mm.
like do that. So in season 1, that's all about like the idea of fatherhood and that type of thing and families. And in this season, it's more about like social interaction and the way like routine and structure and all of these things that he is basically saying like, I'm going to figure it out through I'm going to save people from like, being in plane crashes, when actually he's basically just wasted a bunch of money to basically like figure some stuff out himself. And I just think it is so like broad and also deeply personal. That is what makes this show work so extremely well, because it is absurd, but it's also like, yeah, I have the same, thoughts that like, imposter syndrome, and am I being awkward in this encounter, or is that person actually not following social norms and social cues and all of this stuff. I just think it's like incredibly brilliant on top of being like extremely funny. And yeah, and he uses all of HBO's money to do all of this stuff. That is, wow. I think the show is a work of genius. And I think I'm going to be chatting with Dr. Amanda on the Crying Laughing podcast, talk about this and Everybody's Live in LA, because I think they're sort of like in the same boat of like modern comedy. That is like just fascinating to me. I love The Rehearsal. I thought this was so good.
I feel like one of the things having always loved Nathan For You, having really enjoyed the first season of The Rehearsal, one of the things that I thought was necessary, but also held me back from like a certain level of appreciation was this sense of detached, ironic sort of distance that Nathan would have. Some of the most popular clips from back in the day of from Nathan For You are like when he breaks character and he laughs at some of the people and what they're saying.
It's the one where
Um,
the guy says that he drinks
yeah,
his grandson's
yeah,
pee, and Nathan
yeah.
cannot believe that he has got on camera this moment of a grandfather, like, "It's good for you to drink the pee." It's like, "What?"
And so you get this sense that like there's this guy and he is trying to hold up a mirror to society, right, and show us what's on the other side of that mirror. But like, you know, the question then is sort of like, what is his role in that, and who is
Yeah,
he to do
yeah,
that?
yeah,
And I think what this season of The Rehearsal did was either trick me into thinking that wasn't the case, or more, I think, accurately showed us that sort of all along he has been holding a mirror to himself,
yes,
uh,
yeah.
and and through that mirror has been reflecting society, and that led to such a deeper connection to him and the story that he's telling, which really led to like finally sort of like the full appreciation for what he's doing, and I think it was just really, really well done, and yeah, just awesome stuff.
If people haven't watched How to with John Wilson, it's a show executive produced by Nathan Fielder that I feel like has some of the same vibes of like John Wilson is very much not in that show. He is very much in the show, but he's not. Like the whole point is that like he is filming. Everything you see is like John Wilson has filmed something, but he has the same thing where he can like find himself in a situation that is so deeply like every episode is kind of like him trying to like figure something out. And so he gets like involved in this situation, but he's also managed to find like the weirdest sort of corners of society that he like has. I don't know. It's also so good. If you're looking for like a rehearsal itch that's not, it's not quite the rehearsal, I highly recommend How to with John Wilson. Also on Max, I believe, or HBO Max. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the studio. I have not finished it. I'm 2 episodes behind. I believe the finale is a two-parter, so I
Yeah.
haven't seen either one of them.
Yeah.
But I have been enjoying it. I think there was a lull for me, episodes like 3 to 5 ish. But then once they did the doctor like cancer
Cancer
dinner,
doctor dinner. Yeah.
it kind of got me back on board, and I've been really enjoying it ever since. But Grace, I know you finished the studio.
Yeah, I like it a lot. The one thing that I am struggling with is a thing that I feel like there was such a uniqueness to this show in terms of like the ability to sort of like pick something and satire it or comment on it. And I do think one of the things that I was like a little bit um butting up against is that there was some continuity within the show that I was a little like I feel like when you start the show, the first episode, I believe that's the one like it ends with Patty and Matt and they're like talking about like, oh, this is like the worst job ever, but it's also the best job ever because you get to make movies. And I feel like you think there's going to be a little bit of a through line, and then they kind of drop that. And then, but I feel like as the show goes along, like they revisit things from earlier that I actually was like taken out of it a little bit to be like, oh, it's actually more of a. I kind of really enjoyed it for it being like, more sitcom. Like this is the thing from this episode. Ultimately, I think the end, the last episode, which is a two-parter, is still pretty good. I do think the show started off as it at its peak, and then a little bit like yeah, it doesn't struggle. It's still really good, but I don't think it hits the highs of like basically the first three-ish episodes of the show. But I still enjoyed it. It's been renewed, so it's coming back. So excited for more. But yeah.
Yeah. Um, okay. Then I think that's the finales this week,
Finales.
right?
Yeah. Mhm.
We talked about The Last of Us Studio and The Rehearsal. There's some new shows that dropped. like Sirens. And I unfortunately did not have a chance to check Sirens out. I watched the rehearsal instead. But Grace, you checked out Sirens.
I did. I mean, I like all three of these people, Julianne Moore, Millie Alcock, and Megan Page. Fun to see Millie Alcock in something that's not House of the Dragon. Felt like she was really like a key part of those first few episodes of that show. So excited to see her in something. It's only 5 episodes, so I wanted to watch more, but also felt like, I'll get to it, and I didn't feel as over to be like, oh, I gotta burn through a bunch of these, so I'm taking it at a bit slower pace. I think it's mostly good. It feels like fairly serious. Like, I think it feels more drama than it does comedy, but it still is. It's enjoyable. It's perfectly reasonable watch. It's not the best thing I've seen, but it's good, I would say. But seven
Yeah.
out of 10 feels about right, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I seeing the response, I think I was hoping for better, so I think my expectations have lowered going into it, but honestly, just like it has so many people that I'm excited to see in it that I'm like, surely it'll just be a fun time at the very least,
It's
right?
pretty well
That's kind
made.
of my hope.
It's pretty well made. It's well acted. Like, it's not a waste of your time. It's just not like, so far it hasn't been like I haven't been blown away by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we also, of course, have some movies that came out. Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
The Final Reckoning, which I discovered recently is 2 hours and 49 minutes long.
Yeah, it's pretty long, but I thought this was good. I don't think it's as good. I feel like this is sort of like middle of the pack Mission Impossible. Like,
That's what I've heard.
there are worse Mission Impossibles, there are better Mission Impossibles. It's pretty good. I do think like there's the way that they utilize the guest stars on this movie, which I'm like almost like tempted to not say. You can look them up if you want. We're probably gonna you see them here on the IMDb, but
I won't. I refrained from scrolling down.
right, because there's literally some like moments where like people show up and like the whole thing, and specifically for people who like I love but didn't think they were like a huge name. There's a lot of like television people in this movie who then show up and it was really fun. They got like in a packed IMAX theater, got like kind of like not applause, but this like it was like, oh, that's very fun. It's a Mission Impossible film. He's gonna do some stuff. There's genuinely some action set piece stuff that I was like pretty blown away by. I'm like, oh wow, I really didn't think it had. I feel like the last one had the like a bicycle off the cliff and parachute, like or hang glide onto the plane. Like there wasn't a that, but there's definitely some really cool stuff that they do. It's very Mission Impossible in the way that it's like referencing a lot of stuff that's happened before, but you don't really like. You don't need to go and do a refresher. They do a really good job. I feel like being like they like flash back in black and white to be like, this is a thing you should remember. That's done. Actually, they also do a thing I've never seen. I don't think I've seen before. And I was thinking about Top Gun Maverick and the way that movie trained you a million times to know how important and what the stakes were of like the final mission in that movie. And I was like, that was so brilliant. That was like textbook. Mission Impossible does a thing where it will be like, they'll be like, we have to do this thing. And you'll see them doing it, but then you never know whether that's actually how they're going to do it. Or if that was like if it goes well, it will look like it's like, you have to do this thing at this moment. And it's just like so brilliantly done to make you like, it basically they do exposition while also showing you the thing, but then every once in a while, like the thing won't go as planned. So that you don't see, it's just really smart, I think. And it was really fun. And it's a big on movie popcorn, actually. Like, although do not eat all your popcorn before the movie starts or Tom Cruise comes into did you see this, Taran?
I didn't see it, but I heard about it.
Yeah, Tom Cruise walked by a guy in the front row. It's like, you ate all your popcorn already? That's embarrassing. He didn't say it's embarrassing. He's like, you gotta get more popcorn.
I struggle with that because if I have food in front of me, I can't not eat it. So my strategy is I try to eat it as slowly as possible until the movie starts, and then I stop caring.
So yeah, Mission Impossible, fun. See it on a big screen if you can. It's fun. Yeah.
All right. And then the movie I think that beat Mission Impossible over the weekend, Lilo and Stitch.
Okay, Taran, I'm gonna say I feel like we talked about this last week, and I did get a message
Mhm.
from Lindsay Wilson being like, very funny when you were like, which one is Lilo and which one is Stitch? Um, and I know now, but you and I are not like the most like, we're not gonna come and be like, Lilo and Stitch, the animated
We're
movie.
not tapped in, yeah.
Yeah. So I have to say, I don't think we're gonna have enough representation on this podcast about just how angry millennials are about this movie.
Ooh.
I think super, super mad about the live action Lilo and Stitch remake because I went and saw this movie. I didn't know any buzz about it beforehand. Like I wasn't checking in. I watch it. I thought it was quite fun. I think especially the first half of
Look how cute they are.
the kid is so cute, and then
This is
Stitch,
adorable.
and I believe the monster is Stitch. I know that now. I'm just kidding. They're very cute together. I think the people that they cast in this movie are really well cast. There's if you could scroll down, there's a guy who plays one of the so Zach Galifianakis is one of the people, and then there's also I'm just gonna pull up his name as he's
Billy
Billy
Magnuson's
Magnuson.
in here?
He's really well cast, I think, in the role. Even though you could argue that it should be a queer person playing the but whatever, it doesn't matter. I think like I think it's like so cute and adorable. It got some genuine laughs. There is some big concern about the way that the movie makes changes to the ending of the movie that are antithetical to the themes. For me, not being like the most Lilo to being like, oh yeah, like I think that that's kind of clumsy. The ending doesn't really jive with the themes of the movie. Millennials who love Lilo and Stitch are really, really mad about this movie and the way it ends. But this is basically like classic live action stuff where like everyone's like, they really shouldn't make these. It doesn't make any sense. And then they like make, a, a
Well, that's
ton
because
of money.
everyone watches them.
I know. I know. I
Ex
went to a
unless
packed
it's Snow
theater.
White, I guess.
Which even that one they bailed on the marketing. They were like, no, 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 never mind, because they didn't want to step on the landmine of that one. But yeah, Lilo and
Like,
Stitch made
sorry, if you don't
145
want
million
these to be
dollars.
made, don't go to the movies and watch them because they make boatloads of money.
Yeah, I thought it was quite cute, and I agree that the ending is like kind of bad and antithetical to the themes. I also think like I was mostly being like, oh, my nieces are gonna love this. I would love to drive home and take them to the movies to go see because I think
Would people be mad at me, I guess, for doing the same thing you did, which is choosing to watch this one instead of the original?
uh so I think people are gonna in the comments below be like, how dare you, Taran? You should watch the animated movie. It's fun. You know what though? Watching the anime or the live action one made me want to go back because I'd seen it. I just haven't seen it forever. Go and watch the animated one. I will at some point because it's kind of the thing I have with like, I really liked like One Piece, like these anime shows.
Mhm,
And I know that they're probably not as good as the animated ones, but I thought they were like good enough. And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should watch the animated ones. So I feel like
mhm.
you might have the same vibe.
I mean, I literally just went on a whole rant on the Last of Us recap about like how things look and how that impacts I think people, but like this looks cuter to me than the animated version, and that matters.
There is some stuff that people have about like the universe of the world in the animated one probably does make like because like the whole point is that like these like aliens are in disguise and people don't realize I believe I'm like struggling to remember, and so like some people are like, oh, they had to change too much to like make like there is a way in which like the animated version works really well for what they're trying to do in the animated movie, as opposed to the show. Again, I feel like I'm totally like the Lilo and Stitch
People are gonna be
defenders
so
are
mad at
they're
us.
really mad that I'm even being like, I thought it was pretty cute, you know? Again, acknowledging fully the ending is bad. The changes they made to the end of the movie are actively bad, and they're bad for like big moral reasons. In terms, it's so hard to do it without like spoiling it, so I can't. But like, there's a thing that I actually think it's like the ending is quite unethical to have done it the way they did, and I that sounds
Mm,
wild about a Lilo and Stitch movie, but we're talking about like Hawaiian indigenous peoples and what family means and so this is
mm.
complicated stuff. So yeah.
All right.
I
Anything
watched
else
yeah,
new?
yeah, one more show. I watched Overcompensating. This is a Amazon Prime comedy. It's Benito Skinner is the
Mm,
lead actor.
mhm.
He's also the creator and writer of this show. It's about Benny who goes to college and he's not out yet, so he's overcompensating for that fact. I thought it was really fun. I watched the first two episodes. I'm definitely going to be watching more. I think it's very clever. It has a little bit of the Scrubs energy style, which I feel like really needs to
Ooh.
return, where there is like he'll say something and it will cut to like another so it's like
Mhm.
oh, you should like,
Like
he's like,
little
otherwise
fantasy segments?
it's actually, they're not fantasy as much as it's just like, make sure you don't sign up for the improv group, and then it cuts to the improv group like doing a whole skit that's completely unrelated to the main character's
Mm,
thing, but it's just kind of like a sketch. Just it has that energy of like, we're gonna put this in here because it's a joke, it's like very
yeah.
fun. So I like it a lot. Again, I'm like, with a comedy, I'm like, I wish the episodes were a little bit shorter, but if it's good enough, it's fine. It definitely gives up. I mean, you see here raunchy comedy, teen comedy. It's definitely giving off a lot of that because it's like all the bros who want to sleep with women, and he's like, me too. I would also like to sleep with women, So yeah, I find it quite fun, and I'm absolutely looking forward to more. And really appreciate. Don't have the name, but the person in the comments wrote, I would recommend you watch Overcompensating, and then underneath it wrote, have you started watching Overcompensating yet? So yes, I have. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Upcoming?
Upcoming.
Um, not much in the TV front, I would say. The thing to probably look out for if you're looking for something new this week would be Department Q. This has Matthew Good starring in it. It's about a detective who's working on like a cold case. The I think important part of this poster, as you see at the little top there, this is from Scott Frank, who made The Queen's Gambit, and it will be on Netflix. So you have to imagine they are hoping to cash in on The Queen's Gambit popularity and hope that this one also takes off. He also made another show in between called Monsieur Spade that did not, that many people probably did not even know
Monsieur
existed.
Spade
So.
is highly acclaimed by some people in the TV world, I believe. Is that right? Am I thinking of the right thing? I think I am. I think Monsieur Spade is like, there's some people in the like TV world. I believe the Watch people really love Monsieur Spade. Believe
I spelled it wrong.
that's right.
Damn it.
Anyway,
Sometimes I wish I knew how to spell French things. It's Clive Owen,
yeah,
and I think it was on AMC, so not Netflix, which is I think going to be important here. And in terms of general audience, I think had a more mediocre reception, but I could see why this might be something, especially people on the watch really liked. It's right up their alley.
yeah.
But this is the first Netflix show return to Netflix for this guy Scott Frank, who made The Queen's Gambit, which was immensely popular. So it's possible that Department Q is going to really take off here, and it might also be very good, which would also be nice. But fairly standard in terms of its premise, I would say. Nothing about the premise is really hooking me. I'll say that, but hopefully it's good.
Yes.
Then we have another show called Adults. This one is going to be on Hulu. This is just like a little comedy series. Nothing special here. Just quite frankly, you already shouted out Overcompensating, which is probably just going to be a better pick than this one, I would imagine. But who knows? Maybe this one's going to be good too.
Taran, I have to say, this is executive produced by Nick Kroll, and I have to say there is something special about it, which is that you and I know somebody who's in this television show. There is an RHAP podcaster who I believe will, from what I understand, will be in at least one episode of the show. So, yeah.
Do we?
I don't know that I can say. I don't know. I'll tell you offline, and then when the episode,
Okay.
and it's releasing weekly, so I don't know that it will be like, once
Mm.
their episode is out, I will let folks know if they're I believe prominent enough that like there's no reason to think that they shouldn't be in the episode. So yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it's good.
Yeah, I know. I hope so too. Yeah.
Any other shows for upcoming shows this week that you're interested in?
I don't think I have any others.
These were the two that stood out to me. There are a few others. There's one called The Better Sister. This is made by the woman that made Ocean's 8. That is going to come to Amazon. There's an animated show from the people at, I think, Critical Role called Age of Umbra. and a couple other things here and there.
You know, it's funny. I was
But
thinking about as I was looking at Better Sister. I often talk about shows that are dad shows, but the Better Sister feels like my mom's show. That's like my mom. I bet my mom will like that
that's
show.
well, that's exactly like when I saw it was the person who made Ocean's 8. I was like, okay.
But it's
Like I think the vibe is right. I think this is like a mom show because like
two
Ocean's 11 is
estranged
like a
sisters.
dad's show
Yeah, yeah. Two estranged sisters
or
are
a
forced
movie.
together after one of their husbands is murdered. Yeah, yeah. I think so. Age of Umbra is kind of fun. That's yes, I think set in the it's a non. Yeah. Anyway, it's gonna star all the Critical Role
Showing
people.
up on
So
IMDb, but
yeah.
So then we have some movies like Karate Kid Legends. I'm the general vibe I've gotten about Karate Kid Legends is that people are kind of not super high expectations.
Yeah.
Looks like so far there's been some people that have seen it and think it's fine.
This is what I've heard, that
Yeah.
it's like we're just doing more Karate Kid for some reason.
Which listen, there are people that love Karate Kid.
Hey, I watched all Cobra Kai. This is that's my friend Ralph Macchio. I've interviewed Ralph Macchio, so that's my friend Ralph Macchio.
There you
This
go.
is, I think, the first time that they're like officially bringing these two, like the original movies and the like reboot series together, where you have like Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan. I believe is the first time they're doing that, so that is kind of exciting, maybe. But yeah, I don't know. Karate Kid Legends. I'm gonna go see it. I'll go see it, but yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't seem like something I'd go to see in the theater myself, but I've seen all the Karate Kid movies and I watched as much of Cobra Kai as I could before I had to stop. But honestly, I think despite Cobra Kai in some ways reinvigorating my interest in the series, it also then exhausted me on the series, and now I'm not that interested in Karate Kid Legends.
You're telling me that they tried to bring back franchise IP, and at first you were pretty excited. You thought, actually, this isn't that bad. And then they did so much of it, they were like, actually, I think I may be sick of this franchise IP. You're telling me that that's what happened to you, Taran.
I know it's pretty weird scenario, I guess, but I think it might have been what happened.
What about Bring Her Back? You have Bring Her Back on your radar?
Bring Her Back was the other one I had on the docket here.
The Philippines.
Yeah.
The Talk to Me team coming back with another horror. I'm very excited.
Yes, if you did not see Talk to Me, it was one of the better horror movies I would say to come out in the last 5 years, honestly. And just really well done, great visuals. Nothing super unique about anything in particular, just really well done at every angle. And so their new movie, Bring Her Back, is coming out this week. This is one I would go see in the theater because I missed Talk to Me in theaters, and I kind of wish I had seen it. And I mean, you can just see from the poster, like the visuals are just going to be good.
Yeah.
It's just going to be well made. It's going to be scary. It's going to be fun. Yeah, I'm excited.
I love Sally Hawkins. She's English, but this is an Australian movie. But Sally Hawkins, you would know her from what's she been in? Bunch of stuff. I think she's had two.
Shape of Water.
Yeah, Shape of Water. I liked Mud. She's also she's one of the voices in Paddington. I can't remember what she does. Or no, she's yeah. Anyway, doesn't matter. I like Sally Hawkins.
Paddington too.
She's Mary. Yeah, that's right. I think she's the mom in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. I like Sally Hawkins, so excited for this. Very fun. I feel like Talk to Me had such like oh god, just the like, what are teens getting up to at parties? You're like, it's bad. It's just gonna be bad. Except what if it's not drugs, but what if it's like demons? And you're like, God.
I think the word I'm looking for Talk to Me is that it felt authentic.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
That it focused on like teens and stuff, but it did not feel like Hey Fellow Kids, like quite frankly, many horror movies do. It felt true to the characters and the situation, and on top of that, really well made and all that stuff. So I think there's a lot of good reason to expect good things from Bring Her Back. Also, so happy to see a movie that is an hour and 39 minutes.
It's good. The other movie, I think The Phoenician Scheme is getting a limited release, so if you're in a bigger city, you might be able to check that out, which is the new Wes Anderson movie. Which I saw a trailer the other day for it, and within 1 millisecond of the movie, I was like, The Phoenician Scheme is a Wes Anderson movie. So
Of
like
course.
the
You can see a
style is
still
so
frame from Wes
mhm,
Anderson
hun-
and
it was
no, it's
just like a panning thing, and I was like, oh, it's a Wes Anderson movie that's coming up.
Can
So
I just say
uh,
I love Wes Anderson as a filmmaker, but I feel like he's reached a point in his career where he is no longer making movies for anyone but himself. I don't think he ever was, but like I think his tastes and mine have started to deviate too dramatically because I have not enjoyed most of his. I can appreciate them, but most of his most recent movies, I've just been like, okay,
see, I
that
I
was
think
that's cool.
I think Asteroid City is so underrated. I can go back and forth on the shorts he did, but I think Asteroid City is there's particularly the scene where Margot Robbie and Jason Schwartzman's characters like meet on the just what he was doing with like it's like a play, but then once you're in the play, it's live action, and I just thought it was all so clever. And there's this moment where it kind of like pulls
Fair.
back, and these two people just talking. I think about that scene all the time. I just think it's like I agree that he's doing. I here's my thing. I would rather more movies try to be more like this is what this movie is, and this isn't its thing, than
Mhm.
being like, oh, I'm gonna try to be everything for everybody.
Oh, I agree.
So yeah, and it's okay if people, but I really like Wes Anderson. I'm excited for the Phoenician Scheme.
I just like for me, there was such a great like for me, my Wes Anderson phase, because a lot of people love, Rushmore, Royal Tenenbaums. Uh, for me, it's like Fantastic Mr. Fox through Moonrise Kingdom, Grand Budapest
Budapest
Hotel, Isle
Hotel.
of Dogs.
Yeah.
Like those four movies are all like top tier, amazing. And then French Dispatch, I was just not super into. Asteroid City was, again, there were parts of it I liked, but it was just kind of a little off. And
Yeah.
so I'm not super personally hopeful for Phoenician Scheme, but um, you know, I'm certainly gonna watch it. So
Yeah. It's got a humongous cast.
as of
Unsurprisingly.
course always.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Oh right. I watched Companion.
How much did you know about Companion going into Companion?
This is part of it, right? I'm not even gonna bring up the page for it.
Yeah.
And
Is it?
here's why.
Yeah.
Um, the poster for this movie is a spoiler.
100%. It's 100% a spoiler. Yeah.
The freaking I didn't watch a single trailer. Apparently the trailers were even worse.
The trailer is
Um,
worse. Yeah.
but the poster itself is a spoiler for this movie. Not dramatically so, but
Yeah,
like
I agree.
it reminded me a lot of Annabelle
Yes.
and other such movies where like there is a sort of mini arc that concludes with sort of a thing that is spoiled by the promotion for the movie. And I wish I had been able to experience that in the way that clearly the movie intended me to. Um, Especially because like for me, I would have seen this movie. Like nothing about the poster is why I saw this movie. It had a good reception, so I saw the movie. So like just at least leave it off the poster, man. So if you want to watch this movie, I would advise trying to watch it without seeing the poster, which is going to be very difficult. But
Yeah, because you're gonna have to like if you watch it on VOD, you're gonna have to like see
I
the poster, I
exactly.
think. So
It's probably on the cover of like the DVD, even if you those still exist. But what I will also say is, it's not going to ruin the movie if you do see it. It's still a good movie, and I did really enjoy it. It had some good twists and turns that I did not see from the poster, and I think my biggest thing is that I think I had my expectations were maybe a little too high. And so some of the things, especially toward the end, I felt were like a little clunky. But overall, I thought it was very, very good, very fun, and I would recommend seeing it for sure.
Yeah, I think the best part of it is fun, and the cast is so like leans into that with like Jack Quaid, Lucas Gage, Harvey Guillen, I think are all Megan Surian as well. There's some of the like sequences in the movie I think are like very clever and very fun. Um, that I can't really name them without spoiling it, so I won't. I like it. I will say I thought it was maybe a little overhyped, and I didn't even know the thing. I don't know what
Mm.
I completely like that was a and it was like as soon as you're like, oh, you like should know kind of, but I didn't. So I
That's the thing, like watching it and knowing it was like so obvious.
yeah, it is. I know I felt like a dummy after, but you know, it's okay. Yeah, it's a good movie, fun movie. It's only
Yes.
like 97 minutes too, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Good length. All right. Anything else, Grace?
No, I think that that's it for this week.
That's it for this week. Thank you for joining us on the Tastemakers podcast. We'll be back next week to talk through all of the things coming up. Hopefully, we'll have an opinion on Department Q, and we'll see if Bring Her Back lives up to the hype,
Yeah,
and all kinds of other conversations. I think Your Friends and Neighbors will be airing its finale this week as well.
yeah, I should catch up on that.
So I do have some thoughts on that. I am caught up on that show at the moment, so we can definitely give some thoughts on Your Friends and Neighbors. The show, not the people. That's what we have for you. In the meantime, check out, I have a YouTube channel myself and a Patreon where I'm reacting to The Devil's Plan on YouTube. I'm reacting to The Genius UK. You can find those things and check out the Last of Us coverage that we did. Very, very happy with our coverage of The Last of Us. I think that it's a
Same.
very fun show to cover because it's so layered and there's so many things to dive into. So if you haven't checked that out, I would recommend doing so. Grace, anything else?
You and I chatted Big Brother 21 as well on the
We
Big Brother
did.
retrospective. So chat a couple hours about BB 21, which is very fun to go. Some of it was fun, some of it was not. Some of it was, as I kept saying on the podcast,
That's Big Brother for
rough.
you.
But yeah, that was a good time. And yeah, I'm writing on Parade and Pop Heist. I wrote about last season of Survivor. I'm writing about Poker Face, which is still going. Sorry, there's a this week on Poker Face. It was about baseball, Taran, and it was the first time we were like, hey, that's not right. That doesn't make sense. And I feel like that's how like every week there's somebody who's like, you know, she gets a job as like a lawyer. They're like, that's not how lawyering works. But the rest of the
Yeah.
episodes you don't care because you're not a lawyer or you don't work
Oh,
at,
yeah.
you don't know about baseball. So yeah. But yeah, that's it. That's it for me. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us this week, and we will see all of you next time.